Kilo 2 Alpha Delta.
Kilo 2 Alpha, come back with the call sign again, please, sir.
Alpha Delta Alpha.
Roger, Roger. The name, please?
My name is Jim. Sorry, no, your name is Jim. My name is Andy. Hello, Jim. I think it's just irony or just some luck on my part, but I put a new radio on the air this morning, a radio 881 that I'm primarily going to use for portable use. And my first contact was a gentleman that steered me to this frequency at this time to talk with you. And I'm so pleased that I was able to hear you this afternoon.
Roger that. Well, with any luck at all, we do fairly well from, up towards Canada down to Miami, and from New York out to New Mexico. I got as far as Arizona, the SDR out in Sedona. But, good talking at you, sir. And your audio sounds pretty good. What kind of radio is that, sir?
So this is a Yahoo 891. They're small. I guess it's a replacement or a radio that is normally used for portable use. I'm running it at about 80 watts through. I'm running it at about 80 watts at my home station now, however, it's just a rotatable dipole on this band. And I'm using the settings that Bill gave me. Bill calls W2USR. And so I'm starting with the settings that I think that you and he must have probably trial and error with this particular. He has the same radio. And Heil Pro set with a HC6 element. So it's a Yahoo 891, Jim. Go ahead.
Roger. Now, I've listened to you on 3 SDRs on my own receiver, and my receiver shows you to be just a little bit on the heavy side of the audio EQ. I know you mentioned that mic. What was that mic again?
It's a Heil Pro set with the HC6 element.
Roger. And do you know what your EQ setting is at the moment?
Well, it's the first time I'm using this radio today, and there is a parametric equalizer in the radio. And I used the settings that Bill gave me, and to be honest, I'm not quite sure exactly how it's set up, but it looks to me like it's a 4-band EQ, and some threshold settings and some bandwidth settings, and I believe that I have a cutoff right now at about 200.
Roger. It doesn't sounds like it's extended well beyond that and kind of hot on the bottom side. If you know your radio fairly well, would it be possible for you to go to the equalizer and just take it out of the circuit, just punch the equalizer out of the circuit for the moment?
Yeah, with this radio, and it's a brand new one for me, so I don't know it well. I believe that there are separate settings for different bands. I'm not sure if it's simple as punching it in and out. At least that's my understanding. However, I do have a band pass filter from 200 to 2800 that is in line that I could take out, so I could just leave it right there.
Well, I would put the radio on wide as possible, like 100 to 3K. If you've got a setting 100 to 3K, I would make sure it's in that mode right now. Roger?
Okay, I have made that change.
All right, and I'm not. Your EQ sounds heavy on the bottom end, and you would need to get to your equalizer for that. Before we went much further. So if you know where that is and could put that flat, that would be helpful. Otherwise, we're going to try to have to modify what's there. Roger? I don't want to put you on the spot, and I know it's a new radio, and if you feel uncomfortable, then I would just give you some notes. Roger?
Yeah, I'm just, there's 200 menu items in this radio, and I'm just trying to see if I can make sense of them. It appears that they allow you to EQ both sideband, RIDI, and data, and I'm trying to zero in on just the sideband setting. Just gives me an on or off. It looks like it's 5 segments with with frequency, level, bandwidth. So there's 3 settings per segment.
Roger. Okay, let me, I'll tell you what, let me give you some ideas, and you can work on that and then give me a shout back, either later today or next Friday or whenever. But the first thing would be to become familiar with your equalization, getting it to the flat mode, and your compressor, where that is. And normally I suggest running a 3 out of 10 on the compressor, and hopefully, if you got a pad and pencil, you could take some notes there. That's what I was thinking about. You could take some notes and do some stuff, and then give me a shout back when you become just a little bit more familiar with that radio, so you don't feel like you're the elephant in the room. Roger.
Roger. Yeah, and I have some notes going here. I think that's what the compressor is set at, and in terms of overall loudness, does it seem to be in good shape?
Well, I tell you what, have you checked your ALC? That's the first place to go. Go to your ALC with your hand on your mic level and adjust the ALC for mid-scale to 2/3 deflection. Roger?
Mid-scale to 2/3, got it.
And that would be just talking along with your hand on the mic level and just adjusting that to where, it seems fairly consistent between mid-scale and 2/3. Roger, Roger?
Roger, Roger.
Okay, you got that?
I'm just taking notes now, and I'll try to I don't want to take too much of your time, so I'll take notes, make the changes, and then I'll call you back.
Roger, Roger. Okay. You want to be mid-scale to 2/3 on the ALC, and that's adjusted through the mic level or your mic gain control. And then you want to be on the compressor. You want to be a 3 out of 10. Want to be running that at about a 3 out of 10. That will give you that reading on the ALC. So you do the compressor first, and then do the ALC, and then start looking at your equalizer, trying to get it flat. I suggest starting flat, and mid-range, the 1 KC adjustment mid-range, I'll leave that flat, and then I would go up to the top, and I would just arbitrarily crank in 2 or 3 dB, 2 or 3 clicks out of 10, maybe 4, and then go to the bottom end, and that's the whole trick, is the bottom end as to what you want to do with it. If you want that mic to be a QSO mic, you're going to have a fairly fat bottom end, not heavy, but the bottom end will be there, and then if you want to QSO or DX, you roll that bottom off. Maybe minus 3 or 4, so you sharpen your audio up as opposed to being pretty mellow. It then becomes more of a audio signal that will cut through. Roger, Roger?
Roger, Roger. Understand the theory.
Roger. So the whole thing, once you get the top end squared away, then the whole thing falls in the bottom end as to what you really want to do with it. And all of this happens when you're in the, I used to say the widest possible mode, but I'm kind of correcting that now. You want to be in the 100 to 3K range. That's the best place. You don't want to set something up for 4K, 6K or on, because you don't make good neighbors that way. But if you can just say, your bandwidth 3K at the top and whatever that happens to be at the bottom, maybe like 100 cycles. Roger?
Roger, I did make that change, so it is set currently at 100 to 3000.
Roger, Roger. And that mode works well for QSO or contest or DX, because what you want to keep as much high frequency articulation in the audio as possible for intelligibility, because when you get into a marginal situation when your RF level is 1 dB above noise, you want a very well articulated audio track, so they can actually hear you even though you're even with the noise. They can hear what you're saying because your audio is bright enough, articulated enough that it cuts through. You know, if it's mumbly, then it gets lost in the blow by. So you know, and so what I'm saying there is that you want to run that radio 3K to 100 cycles, whether you're QSOing or you're DXing, because if you cut the top end off while you're trying to DX, there goes all of your intelligibility, Roger.
Yeah, I want to make sure that, again, the primary use of this radio is in field operations, so not likely to be long, extended frequency response QSOs, no rad chewing really. It's going to be exchange of signal reports and high intelligibility or articulation. So that's what I'm looking for in this particular radio.
Roger, Roger. So you get that top end. That's a dynamic microphone you're running, Roger?
Roger.
Okay, you realize that if you had a condenser microphone, your articulation would be about twice what it is with a dynamic mic. A dynamic mic is a nice mic, but it doesn't have quite the ability to communicate and be articulate at the higher frequencies like a condenser microphone. And I'm only suggesting that for maybe in the future, if you have to buy another microphone, a desk microphone, you would do a condenser. The problem would be then that you would probably have to have some kind of a way to furnish voltage to the condenser to operate, unless your radio happens to have, excuse me, DC on the audio pin.
Right, yeah, like the ICOMs do. I'm not sure that this one does, but I'd have to look at it. And no, I'm using a dynamic Heil element at this point. So I'm going to try to optimize that one the best I can, and we'll go from there.
Roger, Roger. Well, then after you add that 3 or 4 clicks at the top end, it all gets down to the bottom end. And, you know, that mid-range, you want to keep that flat. And then, you know, it falls down to the bottom end as to how much bottom end you need to roll off to get that articulation to where you want it, Roger.
Roger, Roger. Okay, let me do a little reading here and see if I can get a grasp on how they're dealing with the parametric EQ on the radio, and I'll give you a ring back.
Sounds good, sir. And come back with your call sign again, please.
The call is Kilo 2 Alpha Delta Alpha, and the name is Andy, and I'm in Ocala, Florida.
Ocala, Florida. Roger, Roger. My home state. So one of these days I hope to get down to West Palm. It's been quite a few years, but I hope to get down there. All right, Andy, your 3's underway, sir, and then we'll catch you either later on today or next Friday. Roger?
Roger, Roger. I'll try to make it today because I'd love to get this dialed in. And I really appreciate your time and your expertise in this matter. Clear with you now, K2ADA.
Roger, Andy 3's underway, sir, and have a good afternoon, good evening. This is KC9VKV and the Qso-Vlog program from now until 5. If you've got a radio you want to check out audio-wise, give me a shout. We are recording from now until 5 Eastern, and then we'll post it again later up on YouTube within the next couple of days, and you'll be able to go there and do a call letter search for KC9VKV, Kilo Charlie 9, Victor Kilo Victor, and that'll take you to our Qso-Vlog page. We're running it right now probably about 450 QSOs, but you'll be looking for a QSO entitled My Group Aircheck 21519. My Group Aircheck 21519. This is KC9VKV.